Everything changed in a matter of seconds. Welcome to NFL Nexus. I'm your host, and today we are breaking down a story of strategy, sacrifice, and absolute survival in the National Football League. We're diving deep into a high-stakes, cinematic analysis of the shifting landscape within the NFC North. You see, the board has been completely reset. The pieces are moving as we speak, and the decisions being made in front offices right now, they are going to echo throughout the entire upcoming season. So let's dive into this explainer, because what we're looking at isn't just about football anymore. It's a high-stakes chess match where every single move carries the suffocating weight of a championship window.
So what happens when a broken curse meets a ruthless offseason of subtraction? I really want you to think about that for a moment. Last season felt like a fairy tale for Chicago, right? It was a release of literally decades of pent-up frustration. But in the NFL, the reward for breaking a curse is almost always a brutal reality check. The front office, they didn't celebrate. They went straight back to work. And that work involved some incredibly calculated, almost cold-blooded maneuvers that have left the rest of the league completely stunned. We are about to explore what is, quite frankly, an absolute masterclass in roster manipulation.
Section 1. A shifting NFC power dynamic. Let's look at the board.
Section 2. Losing the premier weapon.
To truly understand the gravity of the current situation, we have to look at the backdrop of the 2025 season. This was the year the Earth completely shifted in the NFC North. The Chicago Bears finally, emphatically, shattered the Green Bay Packers' curse. They captured the division title, and then, in this wild twist of poetic justice, they eliminated Green Bay in the wild card round of the playoffs. It was a monumental power shift. But listen, a power shift is only temporary if you don't fortify your walls. While the city was still popping champagne, the front office began a methodical dismantling of key components. They lost crucial pieces on the defensive side, like cornerback Nahshon Wright. But the move that sent absolute shockwaves through the league was the departure of their supposed top target. Tracing the timeline of DJ Moore's departure reveals a deeply hidden strategy. Look at this timeline. In the 2024 season, Moore was the undeniable focal point, absorbing a massive 140 targets. He was the ultimate security blanket for a developing offense. But moving forward into the 2025 season, the strategy fundamentally shifted. The targets plummeted, down to just 85. The writing was on the wall. It was a slow weaning off of a primary dependency. And then, the final blow came in March 2026. DJ Moore is traded to the Buffalo Bills. Just like that, the safety net is completely gone. The receiver who carried the passing game through those transitional eras was shipped out, creating an incredibly tense mystery around the entire future of this offense.
Now, when the trade came down, everyone immediately looked to the quarterback. How would Caleb Williams react to losing his friend, his star receiver, the guy who essentially helped him navigate his entry into the league? His response was chillingly professional. He simply stated, and I quote, "You do understand that there is a business side to this and you have to roll with the punches." There was absolutely no panic, no frustration leaked to the media. Just the cold, hard realization of a professional who deeply understands that in this league, emotional attachments to personnel are a vulnerability. This wasn't the reaction of a quarterback who just lost his crutch, guys. This was the reaction of a man who knows, without a shadow of a doubt, that he is the one fundamentally in control of the offense.
Section 3. The equal opportunity assassin.
That chilling response leads us directly to the reality of who Caleb Williams truly is. We are looking at a completely different archetype of quarterback here. He operates as an equal opportunity assassin, and the 2025 fractional target data proves this with terrifying clarity. I want to spend some real time painstakingly dissecting every single slice of this fractional data, because the smallest details here explain exactly why defensive coordinators are losing sleep. Look at this distribution. Rome Odunze actually led the team with 16.9% of the targets, which equates to 90 total passes thrown his way. DJ Moore was second at 16%, sitting at 85 targets. But the drop-off? It isn't a cliff. It's a gentle slope. Colston Loveland was right there, commanding 15.5%. Alameda Zacchaeus secured 12.2%. Luther Burden took 11.3%. Even tight end Cole Kmet carved out roughly 9% of the pie. When your leading receiver only commands 16.9% of the target share, it fundamentally breaks traditional defensive schemes. Opposing defenses cannot simply bracket a star receiver or roll a safety over the top of one guy, because Williams doesn't play favorites. He literally just plays the open man. He never leaned heavily on Moore. He just executed the scheme, methodically dismantling defenses by taking exactly what the coverage dictated. This level of spread distribution is lethal. It is surgical precision.
I want to let this number completely sink in. 5,008.
5,008 total yards during Williams' 2025 mini breakout season. This number represents the sheer magnitude of his production. Think about it. When you don't rely on a single receiver, you become inherently unpredictable. And when an elite quarterback becomes unpredictable, they become utterly unstoppable. This number isn't just a static statistic on a page. It is a booming warning shot to the rest of the league that the engine of this offense doesn't run on any single wide receiver. It runs entirely on the quarterback.
Breaking down the anatomy of that dominance reveals a truly multidimensional threat. Methodically looking at his 2025 regular season arsenal, he produced 3,942 passing yards through the air, completely slicing up secondary coverages. He added another 383 rushing yards, breaking the spirit of defensive lines and extending drives on crucial third downs. He threw 30 regular season touchdowns, but perhaps the most crucial, minute detail of his evolution is how his deep ball accuracy absolutely exploded. He jumped from 37th in adjusted deep passing percentage in 2024 all the way up to 7th in 2025. This wasn't just about raw arm strength. This was a complete refinement of lower body mechanics, tying his eyes to his footwork while sensing edge pressure and stepping up into the pocket to deliver absolute strikes. When you combine this refined elite production with a brilliant coaching staff, a stable of elite remaining weapons, and a top-tier offensive line, there is this overwhelming sense of offensive inevitability. We are projecting undeniable top 3 quarterback potential for the upcoming season, regardless of who is technically listed as the wide receiver 1 on the depth chart.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this isn't some new development born out of NFL necessity. If we trace his assassin-like distribution habits back to college, we see a historical, deeply ingrained pattern of spreading the wealth. Let's look at the bars here. In his 2023 season at USC, Taj Washington led the way with 59 catches. Brendan Rice had 45, but the rest of the top 5 receivers all hovered densely around 24 to 31 catches. The wealth was meticulously distributed. The defense could never hone in on just one guy. Caleb has been operating this matrix-style offense since long before he ever stepped onto a professional field.
Comparing his 2022 season at USC against his freshman year at Oklahoma builds a fascinating, deeply ingrained psychological profile. Back in 2022, he had an absolute superstar in Jordan Addison, who caught 59 passes. Yet Taj Washington was right there alongside him with 50 catches, and 3 other receivers hauled in between 39 and 46 passes. Even going all the way back to his freshman year at Oklahoma, when Marvin Mims burst out for a massive 705 yards, Mims didn't even finish first or second on the team in actual catches. Let that sink in. Caleb had 6 different players with more catches than his most explosive, terrifying weapon. He has a fundamental, autonomic reflex to survey the entire field, process the geometry of the defense, and deliver the ball without forcing the issue to a predetermined target.
But even with a perfectly egalitarian quarterback, if DJ Moore is gone, someone still has to absorb that gravitational pull. Enter the Luther Burden factor. Burden emerged late in his rookie season, operating quietly in the shadows until it was his moment to strike. And he is an incredibly dynamic mover with lethal ball carrier vision in open space. We're talking about a true 3-level playmaker who creates his own separation effortlessly. Whether it's at the line of scrimmage, at the intermediate break, or deep down the sideline, he is a problem. And with the Chicago offensive scheme heavily utilizing complex screens and pre-snap motion fly sweeps, Burden is uniquely positioned to seamlessly, almost invisibly, replace the exact type of production Moore provided. The Chicago offense is built not to skip a single beat.
Section 4. The pass rush dilemma. This is where things get really tense.
Because everything we just painstakingly broke down, the record-setting yards, the elite distribution, the seamless transitions, it could all mean absolutely nothing. Because abruptly, we have to pivot our focus to the other side of the ball. The Bears have a massive, bleeding vulnerability, a fatal flaw that threatens to completely derail their championship window before it even fully opens. 35. That is the total number of sacks the Chicago Bears managed in the entire 2025 season. 35. Let that deep disappointment wash over you. That ranks near the absolute bottom of the National Football League. It is fundamentally unacceptable for a team that has legitimate Super Bowl aspirations to fail to put the opposing quarterback on the ground. You simply cannot survive in the cold, unforgiving months of January and February if you cannot organically generate pressure with your front four. And so far this offseason, they haven't signed any premium edge rushers in free agency, and they ignored the position entirely in the draft. It is a terrifying, glaring oversight.
Because look at the context. This division is in an absolute arms race. The Chicago Bears are operating with a paper-thin edge, relying desperately on the duo of Montez Sweat and a developing Austin Booker. But right across the border, the Green Bay Packers are suffering a catastrophic, decimated edge of their own. Green Bay is agonizingly watching Michael Parsons recover from a torn ACL. They completely traded away Rashawn Gary, and they let Kingsley Enagbare walk out the door in free agency. Right now, it is a desperate, frantic race between the Bears and the Packers to fix a bleeding wound on their defensive lines. Whoever manages to strike first and reinforce their pass rush likely wins the division.
Section 5. Striking the final blow. This is exactly where the offseason turns from a standard business transaction into straight-up psychological warfare. There is an exact free agent move sitting untouched on the open market right now, a move that would not only fix Chicago's biggest weakness, but would serve as a fatal, crushing strike against their bitter rivals in Green Bay. The ultimate weapon, Jadeveon Clowney. Now, this isn't just about signing a veteran to fill out the bottom of a depth chart. Clowney fits the desperate needs of both the Bears and the Packers perfectly right now. He has made it clear he wants to sign with a true contender. If Chicago beats Green Bay to the punch, Clowney becomes a weapon of psychological destruction, designed specifically to drive the Packers absolutely nuts, by taking away the exact piece they desperately need to survive the devastating loss of Micah Parsons.
Let's meticulously break down the metrics of this weapon to really understand the true value he brings. Looking closely at his 2025 season stats with the Dallas Cowboys, we see a story of extreme efficiency. In just 13 games played, he registered 41 total tackles and secured 8.5 sacks. I really want to pace through this slowly, diving into the smallest details of what this actually means on the field because you need to fully grasp his undeniable, sustained productivity. He wasn't just a rotational piece taking up space on early downs. No, he was actively bringing down the quarterback almost 9 times in a partial season. For a Chicago defense that only managed 35 sacks collectively, adding 8.5 sacks from a single edge rusher isn't just an upgrade, it is a monumental paradigm shift. That represents roughly a 24% increase in total team sack production from just one man. And you know what? That doesn't even account for the invisible statistics. The hurried throws, the collapsed pockets, the double teams he commands that would suddenly free up Montez Sweat on the opposite side to just feast on one-on-one matchups. The ripple effect of his presence on the line is absolutely immeasurable.
Now, I know exactly what the critics are saying right now. What about the injuries? He can't stay on the field. Let me silence the injury critics immediately with this powerful number right here, 44. That is the sheer volume of games Jadeveon Clowney has played and utterly dominated in over the past 3 seasons alone. When he is on the field, managed correctly in a modern defensive rotation, he is an absolute force of nature. He is highly productive, he is terrifying to opposing tackles, and he completely changes the complex math for the offensive line on every single passing down. The durability concerns are honestly a tired relic of the past. The present, undeniable reality is that he is seasoned, he's healthy, and he's ready for war.
And you want to know the most painful part for the rest of the league? The price tag, just $3.5 million. That was the painfully obvious affordability of the one-year contract he agreed to with the Cowboys last September. Clearly, a year later, at his current stage, he wouldn't demand some back-breaking premium for Chicago. This perfectly, elegantly solves the Bears' somewhat tenuous salary cap situation. I mean, for essentially pocket change in NFL terms, Chicago could secure a battle-tested, contender-ready piece, instantly bolster their singular fatal flaw, and snatch a massive lifeline right out of the desperate hands of the Green Bay Packers.
So the chessboard is set. The offense has aggressively evolved from relying on a single star receiver into a terrifying, multi-headed hydra of equal opportunity playmakers directed by an absolute assassin. But the defense, it hangs by a very fragile thread, waiting for the one calculated move that will cement their dominance over the division and secure their championship window. Will the Bears aggressively pull the trigger, or will they hesitate and let Green Bay crawl right back into the fight? The upcoming season is looming large, and every single second of this offseason counts. Thank you for diving deep into this explainer with me. Your channels will be called NFL Nexus. If you want to stay ahead of the curve on every critical, season-defining move in the league, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment on what you thought. Do you think the Bears will make the definitive move for Clowney to secure the North? And if you want to take your support to the absolute next level, support the channel by becoming a channel member. Until next time, keep your eyes on the board.